Hello, welcome back to my garden. Today I'm going to be moving my, I think it's in shot here, Blue Victory Salvias because they're good plants. They've been growing here for a couple of years now, but growing in the shade, they don't get as large as they should. And I have Blue Victory Salvia growing over in the rose garden, and it's been performing fantastic. Bees absolutely love the salvia, and the deer don't touch them, which is a huge plus. But these right here being in the shade, even though they've grown, they've flowered, it's just not a good spot for them. Where I'm going to plant them, it was in part shade, but it's not basically, this is almost full shade where they are, so it's not a good location for them. Now, I did do some Googling, and Blue Victory Salvia, even in my area, is a tender perennial. So I don't know if these guys will survive the transplanting over the winter. That being said, with the snow that we had last year and the freezing temperatures, the Blue Victory Salvia over in the rose garden came through like a champ, and it was just, it was good. So I'm thinking if I transplant these guys now, excuse me, a little windy. If I transplant these guys now and move them to a sunnier location, they'll have time to get themselves established, and then hopefully they'll survive the winter, and then next year they'll just go nuts and just be a big, beautiful sort of hedge of salvia that A, the deer won't eat, and B, the bees will love. So the first thing I'm going to do, since these guys all have their flowers still, is I'm just going to chop them back pretty harshly, I think. I'm going to try to leave as many leaves on them as possible, but if they're trying to support all their upper growth and the flowers, I think it's going to be too much for during the transplant. And I did do a little bit of homework, and that's what the interwebs say. So I'm going to do that first, and then we'll dig them up, and I'll show you where we're putting them. As with most of my videos, this is not a how-to. This is just how I'm doing it. I strongly suggest you either go watch somebody with years of experience over me, a horticulturalist, or do your own homework. But as I said, I'm going just to try to chop a lot of the top growth off. I will try to leave some leaves behind. If the plant does survive the transplant, then it should start putting on new growth relatively shortly. And I'm trying to cut above leaf nodes, so hopefully new stems come up. We're going to go right back here. I'm going to be a little harsh. Here's my thinking. If I'm a little harsh here, hopefully the plant will respond by putting out more roots, especially after the transplant, and it won't have to support a lot of top growth. And if it gets well rooted in, even if it doesn't flower or perform well this year, as long as it survives the winter by being well rooted in, it should just take off next year because it'll have a head start. Being up close here, the salvia looks a little dry, and that's because we haven't had a lot of rain recently. Like I said, a few weeks back we got like 5 inches of rain, but that's about it. The bees are a little upset with me right now. There's a bee crawling around on some of the cuttings on the ground, just looking for that sweet, sweet salvia nectar, I guess. Sorry, Mr. Bee. You may also see Sophie running around in the video. She's out with me today, keeping me company, supervising as it were. By opening this space as well, that will allow me to plant something else that will do better in here, like a shade tolerant plant. And here, as you can see all around me, I have the foxgloves, and I'm going to show you guys in a minute the transplants we did in the last video. As you can see, greatly reduced. So I'm going to start digging these up, and I'm going to try to get as much of the root ball as possible. I don't know how big the root balls are or how deep they go. And I know I'm already feeling, I'm hitting pine tree roots here. Oh my. Soil here is very dry, but there's our first one. Second one, third one, and last but not least, fourth one. Back over here, here's some Blue Victory Salvias that I planted from seed earlier this year. So you can see they were much smaller than the ones we had over in the shade. The ones we had over in the shade were, like I said, these were about 2 years old or so. But these guys will really, if they survive the winter, which they should, really take off and get much larger. Behind them, I had some white licorice agastache, and the plants, they didn't seem to survive too well, but this one of them did go to seed, so I spread the seed in the area. It may push up next year. Either way, these blue Victory Salvias didn't have vast roots, which is really nice, and the roots aren't all that deep, which is also a nice thing. So I'm just going to get them settled in, and I had these holes pre-dug. I'm going to push back a lot of this native soil. If these guys do survive and thrive and show up next year, big and lush and full, and the white licorice does go to seed and it starts sprouting up, then the white licorice should get a little taller or be about the same height. But I think that'll also look nice with the blue and then the white. I'm not a garden designer by far. I think you guys have figured that out already. Take this next one. Now this has got a long root running off the side. I'm looking for my little dog. She ran off. I'm just going to snip that back. Hopefully I don't harm the plant too much. That I think tucked in back here. Is that it's part of the plant? Good. I did put some compost, fresh compost, into these holes. I dug the holes fairly deep. I thought the root balls might be a little deeper. They're not, they're pretty shallow. So because I dug the holes a little deeper, I was able to put some nice compost in there. Let me stop prattling and drop the other two. This one also has some very large runaway roots. So again, I'm just going to trim them back. I do apologize if you hear any jet noise in the back. The Marine Corps is having fun in their jets. There is still one sea holly over here that the deer left alone. So I'm hoping that it grows up and flowers next year. I'll let it go to seed. And then before you know it, in 2 to 3 years, there'll be a nice clump of sea holly back here. Once the plants go to flower, the deer don't touch them because the flower heads are very prickly. It's just when they're young and they can nibble on those leaves. So there you go. There's all 4 planted up. There's baby one over here, and then here are the other 4. And there's the sea holly in the back over there. And as I stated before, hopefully some white licorice survives and comes up. I may even start some plants next year from seed and plant them out here, because as you can see as well, there's a lot of bed space still to fill. And as promised, here's the astilbe. I think there's a root or 2 down here someplace, which is fine, but a lot of this is the stuff that had growth on it. It's doing well. I'm going to have to come back and water this today, right after I get done watering the salvia I just transplanted. And here's the Japanese anemone. It's looking a little sad, a little wilty, but this is okay. It's still getting established. Actually, this soil right here, this compost, is really moist, so I may not water this, but I'm probably going to water the astilbe and give that a good soak along with the salvia we just did. That's about it for today. This is one of those things I kind of wanted to get done this year. I was going to wait till later in the season, but then I started thinking about the winter time, and if I move them now, I'm hoping that they'll have time to really get rooted in, which then will give them the best chance of surviving the winter. As I stated before, technically the salvia are tender. This variety of salvia are tender perennials. They're considered tender perennials, which means they may not survive a frost or a freeze or the winter. But here down in eastern North Carolina, growing zone 8B where I am, the ground doesn't freeze. So I'm hopeful most of these, if not all of these, survive, as well as that anemone and the astilbe that I transplanted last week. And right now they look really good, so I still have to water these in. I'm not going to bore you guys with that, but if you'd be so kind, please subscribe, hit that bell icon to be notified as when I do post up a new video, and this way you can follow along with whatever antics that I have going on here and around the garden. There's a bunch of other things that still need to get done around the garden, so I will bring you guys along for that. There's more plants to be transplanted. There's, I think, some plants to be divided. There's a bunch of stuff, as always. There's going to be some big projects so far as digging up canna and preparing the beds for winter, that kind of thing. So I'm sure a lot of you guys are already getting onto your checklists for the fall, for the winter, getting some of these things done that need to get done. So with all that being said, I'm going to catch you guys on the next one. Bye-bye. Come on, Sophie.